Hey, Xiomy here. So today I wanted to do my fall reads. Now I want to divide my fall reads in like two sections. I'm going to mention books that I really need to buy like ASAP and I want to read by the end of the year. And also I'm going to mention physical books that I have in my possession that I really want to read because I really want to know the outcome of certain events. But on a side note, I also want to say thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my channel. I just hit 400 subscribers and it's something that's so surreal for me. I always thought that I was going to have like 10 subscribers and we were going to be chit-chatting every now and then about books. But I want to say thank you for like sticking with me and sticking by me, especially through my weirdness, because I am sometimes weird and awkward. I sometimes tend to enunciate the same adjective over and over again, especially in my unboxings. And it's like my brain doesn't connect with my mouth and I just speak gibberish at times. And sometimes it is a little bit difficult for me to film just because I have a lot of things on my plate. But it's something that I really enjoy doing. I just love how sweet and kind and beautiful a lot of you people have been to me. And it's something that I am very grateful for and something that I'm very thankful for also. And let's get into this video, because if not, I'm gonna continue to ramble about something that I'm not supposed to. So let's get into my fall reads. The first two that I'm gonna mention are two books that I really can't wait to purchase and like actually sit down and devour these books. And the first one that I'm gonna mention is Crooked Kingdoms by Leigh Bardugo. Six of Crows was one of the best books that I have read so far this year, and it's a story that I fell in love with so much. All the characters, I immersed myself in their world, and I love these characters, how they were portrayed and how diverse they are, and the world building was so beautiful, and the story was just something that I really fell in love with. And I really need to know how my peeps end up, because Six of Crows ended on such a huge cliffhanger, and I really need to read the second installment in this book because I need to know what's gonna happen. And I know it's going to devastate me and it's going to destroy me on such an emotional level that I'm not ready for it, but I'm ready for it. Yes, I'm contradicting myself. The next book that I'm going to mention is Gemini by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I'm hoping that I got that name right. I really want to read this book because I never thought that I would have loved Illuminae. Illuminae is a sci-fi book and I don't tend to gravitate towards sci-fi. But I really love the story and I really love the book. And aside from Kaz and Nej, which are two characters that I ship so badly, I also ship these two characters in Illuminae, and I really want to know the outcome and what's gonna happen. So Gemini kind of starts in a different world or a different kind of section of this entire, you know, format that's being told, but I do know that the characters in Illuminae one way or another like intertwine with one another, so I really cannot wait to read them. The next books that I'm gonna mention are ones that I really need to purchase, like you have no idea how badly, and I don't know that much about them because I do want to go into them blind, but I do know like one or two buzzwords from each book. But I'm gonna have every single one of them linked down below from the Goodreads page, so if you're interested you can check them out. The first one that I'm gonna mention is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. The only thing I know about this that I actually do remember from the synopsis is that it said, "Are you happy with your life?" And I know that it's supposed to be like a psychological thriller, and I think it's like this guy does get kidnapped and you see everything that's, you know, unraveling in front of his eyes. Don't quote me on that because I really am not 100% sure, but I really want to read this book because I really don't tend to read books that are psychological thrillers, and I want to start reading these books just because I have noticed that when I step out of my comfort zone, I really do end up liking the books. The next one that I want to mention is The Diabolic by J. Kincaid. I don't know that much about this book, I'm going to be perfectly honest, but I do know that the cover is gorgeous, and I think it deals with a girl named Nemesis, and she's been told all her life that she's like the one, like I like to call it the Messiah complex, but she really isn't the one, and everything starts to unravel. It's like she has to protect the princess, or it's something along those lines. I do know that I want to read it because the cover looks beautiful, and let's be real, I judge books by their covers, so that's the only reason why I want to read it. Yeah. The next book that I'm going to mention, I want to read for two main reasons. One, the cover is gorgeous, and two, it's written by one half of the co-creator of Avatar, and I am obsessed with Avatar. You have no idea. The book is called Rebel Genius, and it is by Michael Dante DiMartini, and that is all I really need to know. The next book that I'm going to mention is The Alchemist of Loom by Elise Kova. I also don't know that much about this book. I just know two things. One, again, the cover is aesthetically pleasing, and two, it deals with dragons. Yes. I'm obsessed with anything that has wings, especially dragons, so of course I'm going to want to read this book. The next book that I'm going to mention is Wires and Nerves, Volume 1 by Marissa Mayer. This does deal with the Lunar Chronicles, so of course I'm going to want to read this, and I already saw a couple of graphic novel images from I think it was from obviously the author, I think it was, that she published it on her page, and I cannot wait to read this because we go on a venture with Iko, and I loved Iko. She was such a beautiful character, and I really want to read this graphic novel just to see these characters again. The next book that I'm going to mention is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I wanted to read this book just because it doesn't have any kind of romance in it, and I want to read a book where it doesn't deal with romance. I just want it to have like non-stop action or drama, whatever the source may be, but I don't want to read, you know, romance. And I love the way that the author was selling her book. She sold it very well. That's all I'm gonna say in an interview. And I loved it, how she created this world. And, you know, she did use a lot of influence from, you know, vampires and angels and whatnot and other kind of creatures to actually create her own creatures. And I really want to know how she did this, you know, and how she created it and how this world building like unravels in the book. It's one of the many reasons why I actually want to read it. The next and final book that I'm going to mention is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, and he is co-writer of Illuminate, so I just wanted to see his writing style on his own. And also there are two reasons why I want to read this book. One, because again, the cover is aesthetically pleasing, and two, it deals with assassins. So of course I'm gonna want to read this. I'm on a bandwagon of assassins lately, so I want to read a lot of things that deal with assassins. I don't know what that says about me as a person in general, but I kind of like stories that are told from an assassin's point of view. Who would have guessed, right? Now for books that I actually own, I'm going to start with The Beauty of Darkness by Mary E. Pearson. I started reading this, I'm like 200 pages in. This book has taken me a while to read, but it isn't because I don't like it. Again, I love the story, I love everything that's transpiring, but I've just had a lot of things on my plate, so that's why it's taken me a while to read. I'm not going to mention the name of the assassin nor the prince because that is one major spoiler, but I'm rooting for the assassin. Can you see I'm on a bandwagon of assassins? I'm like obsessed with assassins. I don't know why, but I really am rooting for him. Again, I don't have high hopes, but one can dream, right? So far, I do love the story. I do love that you get to see the characters break down. You get to see them judge themselves as individuals. What I love about it is that sometimes you have these books that have these tendencies that deal with like the Messiah, like the one person who's going to save the world. And yet in this book, you see them second guess themselves, you see them crumble, you see them fall apart. And it's something that I'm really enjoying because you get to see them as real life people. You get to see them as characters that you want to root for and characters that you want to feel empathy towards. And it's something that I really am enjoying about this book. The next one that I'm going to mention, it's not a surprise to me, but it's Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I do want to reread this book because I want to go directly into Crooked Kingdom, and I do want to marathon this duology. And again, I've mentioned a gazillion times that I love this book. I enjoyed all the characters, and I just want to immerse myself in this world again and continue with Crooked Kingdom so it can devastate me completely. The next book that I'm going to mention is A Torch Against the Night by Sabat Tahir. It's one that I really want to read. I have this on my October TBR. I'm hoping to get to it on October, but I really need to read this book because the second one ended kind of like on a little bit of a cliffhanger, you know, but I want to know the outcome of these characters, and I want to know if a ship does get shipped because I'm rooting for somebody else. So I really want to know what transpires in this book. The one that I'm going to mention right now is a book that I have been eyeing for a while, and that is Three Dark Crowns by Kendra Blake. What I know about this synopsis, and I don't know that much because I do want to go blind into the story. I just know like one or two things. I do know that you have three princesses who do have to fight to the death to obtain the crown, and they are triplets, one of the many reasons why they are fighting to the death. What I do think that it does entail in this story is that they all three supposedly have magic, but in reality only one of them has magic while the other two are like faking it or something like that, or isn't as powerful as one of them. I don't know if that's correct, don't quote me on it, but it's a story that I really want to read. The next two and final books that I'm going to mention are Queen of Shadows and Empires of Storm by Sarah J Maas. I really want to read these two books because I want to get this series over with, and I'm a little bit behind on it. It's just because Heir of Fire wasn't my all-time favorite. I am kind of conflicted about this series, but again, I am going to finish reading it because I want to know what happens and I want to know the outcome of certain characters. I also want to know the demise of them, and I also want to know what happens to certain characters since their aftermath was like a little bit sad, and I want to know if they actually make it out or not. And I also want to know a lot more about Abraxas because I do have a lot of questions based on Abraxas. So I really want to read these two stories and like actually get them over with and finish them. So I am thinking about reading these two books in the month of November. So we'll see how well that turns out. So those are all the books that I really want to read for fall. I hope I get to every single one of them because they all sound very intriguing and very enticing, and I really can't wait to dive myself or immerse myself back into the world of all these wonderful characters that I have loved, and also immerse myself in new stories that I haven't read. So those are all the books that I really want to read for the months of fall. I want to thank you for watching. If you want to tell me which are your books that you want to read for fall, feel free, we'll chit chat down below. I want to thank you for watching, and until next time, peace.